a number of food entrepreneurs, but there was not one space or one place where people could go to learn how to put a food business around a food idea, how to scale their recipes, how to put nutrition facts, proper labeling, and have access to a commercial kitchen, plus access to industry experts. Through a la carte, we're able to address those items. So a la carte is a service initiative of Create Campaign. We are a 501c3 nonprofit here in Wichita. Our space is designed to do just that, allow food entrepreneurs with access to be able to help them with business development, business growth resources, the commercial kitchen access, and industry connections. It is not enough for them just to have a space to cook. They've got to learn how to grow food brands and food businesses, and that's a differentiator with our space. In terms of some features, there's numerous features. I'm going to focus on a few that are bolded today. So affordable pricing. We have spent years really looking at the case and the context for appropriate revenue generation and also appropriate pricing to make sure that spaces are accessible. We not only looked in Wichita, but across the state of Kansas in partnership with the Kansas Department of Agriculture, as well as around our region, and have come up with this business model. So we provide a monthly membership fee, which covers some amenities that aren't traditionally covered in shared spaces. I'll talk about those in a minute. But beyond the membership fee, then we do have a bundle option for entrepreneurs, which results in $18 per hour for their kitchen usage. If they exceed or have additional needs, then we discount to $15 an hour, or we have a pay by the hour option. So $20 per hour, no minimum, and that's really important. In addition to our pricing, what we also have is a streamlined licensing and compliance process. So what does that mean? For more than a year, we work with the Kansas Department of Agriculture to look at this case study to make sure that we're able to have an efficient way to get those licenses processed. We did a brief pilot study, and what we found is even for entrepreneurs who may have been able to afford kitchen space and kitchen time, when it comes down to annual renewal, having to be able to pay those licensing fees was a bit of a challenge for some of our entrepreneurs. So because Create Campaign does provide business capital, we were able to quickly solve that challenge for them. We actually pay on their behalf to the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Those licenses get processed nearly immediately, and they're able to have access and pay back to Create Campaign that business capital that we were able to do and put forward for them. By doing that, we have been able to license two brand new food businesses and help one with their renewal. And so we look forward to continuing to provide that opportunity for new entries. Additionally, on-site secure storage for cold and dry goods. Some of the commercial kitchen spaces, they have access to storage, but they pay and charge by the shelf. We wanted to make sure not to have storage be an issue for entrepreneurs. And so through great partnerships with Cox, for example, they donated some equipment as well as some additional funds that have come to our organization. We've been able to actually provide each entrepreneur in a la carte their own secure kitchen, their own secure refrigeration space, their own secure dry goods storage, and they also have access to multi-purpose area spaces where if they want to do a class or a tasting or even office space, all of that is part of our things I've already talked about, access to business capital, and then consumables. So in many of the shared kitchens that we study, some of them do provide some equipment, but not all of them provide pans, gloves, hair nets, aprons, no-slip shoes. We decided to, again, make this as truly a wraparound supportive environment. And so those are some of the things that we've been able to build into our budget to be able to provide for entrepreneurs as well. When it comes to the impact, so we received and were awarded the RFP for the space at Boston Recreation Center, where a la carte is located, in August of 2023. Following some collaboration with Public Works to bring that space back up to life, we were able to launch a limited pilot in May of 2024. And then we did a full launch in September of 2024. With that, now we're on track. We are able to serve at one time in that shared kitchen space up to 8 entrepreneurs just in the kitchen space, not rentals and things of that nature. We are on path by having 4 memberships. 50% of our goal occupancy has been completed. Within that time, however, our chefs have accumulated nearly 245 hours of used and booked kitchen service. Again, I've already mentioned the newly licensed businesses, and because of their ability to quickly get in and to be able to have access beyond the weekdays, so weekends, evenings, things of that nature. We are seeing them report increases of revenue and new contracting opportunities, including a pretty cool collaboration with the city of Wichita in terms of being able to help serve the Mayor's Youth Council for one event. All in all, altogether, Create Campaign is, again, about mutual partnerships, mutual benefit. We recognize that to be a collaborative partner, we have to make investments as well. So from the very beginning, Create Campaign has made sure to do our part as relates to being a good steward of city resources and our partnership here. We do pay a monthly rental fee of $1,000. We also, in addition to that, have contributed monetarily to the upgrade of the space. We've even gone above and beyond, meaning when it comes to compliance. While the city of Wichita did have equipment there that we have added on to, we work with vendors to make sure the hoods are inspected correctly, first aid kits are up to date, our electric load is appropriate for that space. So we've taken that on because we are the users in that space. Additionally, no one wants to cook in a dirty kitchen. So while we do have wonderful janitorial support at Boston Recreation Center, we also as Create Campaign have paid for additional janitorial support as well as pest control too. Those are not charged to the city. We have incurred that, not even just in our space, but also the entire building so that there is same treatment per vendors. All this to say, we really want to make sure that a la carte is known, it's a resource, and that it's able to grow to its maximum occupancy. We have been able, lastly, to receive a grant from K-State Entrepreneurial Growth Initiative, where we have received $125,000 in terms of an award. It's coming in disbursements as long as we hit our goals. Also, our lead coordinator for a la carte has received safe training. So what this means is food safety trainings can now be held and coordinated by us in an industry recognized way. We have ongoing opportunities for growth and membership and again, continued awareness. So with that being said, one pathway to get in usage or to get in contact with us is to go through one of our entrepreneurship education programs, Spark being one. So you'll see createcampaignks.com/Spark. Again, we don't want to just give access for people to cook. We want to grow food brands. It's important to have access to entrepreneurship education to do that. So Spark is one pathway, but there's other pathways as well. We just ask people to get in contact with us and they will be able to, as we say, create. Any questions?
Could you share some of the dialogue that you guys, John and the team have talked about, just some of the collaborations and some of the things he's hoping to do with Create Campaign in the kitchen?
Yeah, so it's been a great partnership for it. The team there have been great to work with. They've gone above and beyond with doing some things that they're doing outside of just their space that they're renting. They're looking at ways that they could partner with us, potentially offer some cooking classes and things with people coming into the facility. As you mentioned, we also catered the Mayor's Youth Council celebration at the end of last year as well. And they're always really responsive for anything that we need, and they go above and beyond. So it's been a great partnership. We have a great team that's there that's working with our center director there in Boston. So it's good to have them on site.
Thank you. In conclusion, again, I appreciate the opportunity to share. You all will continue to receive updates for us. Accountability is something that we don't just respond to, but we lead with as well. You all and your leadership has created a model that other cities are now looking at. Part of us being able to win that K-State grant is K-State wants to be a university that serves all 105 counties. When we look at good activations of park space, this is one that they deem absolutely worthy and a model for others to look forward to. So again, thank you on behalf of Create Campaign and all the entrepreneurs that we have touched and those we will be able to serve through a la carte in the future. Thank you.
I have a question. Is Wichita Innovation Center in with you guys?
So we have a number of collaborative partnerships. If you're speaking about like Nexus or the Center for Entrepreneurship at Wichita State University, they are definitely partners in terms of pipeline and service. So all we ask is that these entrepreneurs have a touch point for our entrepreneurship education. And once they do that, or through business consultations, just some sort of connection with Create Campaign, then they're able to qualify for being considered for this space.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Christina. Next, we have Katie.
Everyone, Katie Eddy, Management Analyst for Park and Recreation. I'm going to talk to you about the Flat Park Clubhouse lease. So just a little bit of background on that. You may remember from a previous presentation I did that in mid-2019, the golf course at Flat Park did close. And then for a couple of years, the clubhouse that was the former golf clubhouse was vacant. But then in 2021, we rented the clubhouse to Ducks Flying Discs, which is a local disc sport pro shop, to continue to activate the park. And then that lease was in effect through mid-2024. When it expired, we entered a month-to-month agreement at that point. When we were directed by the city council to take this lease to an RFP process, so we did go through that process. The proposal was due in late December. We held interviews in early January. We did receive 2 proposals, and then we did select Ducks Flying Discs as the vendor to continue with their lease moving forward. They had a very thorough proposal. They demonstrated success through their past performance and established an approach to the project that does meet our objectives. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight about Ducks that has a really positive impact on Flat Park is their volunteer service. So over 2,000 volunteer hours by its staff and immediate network alone are completed through cleanup days, through taking care of the disc golf course itself, picking up tree limbs, cleaning the creek, and just those hours from volunteers result in a direct benefit to the city of approximately $75,000. That's basically the equivalent of a full-time employee that we don't have to pay for because they take care of it. They have additional volunteer hours that are coordinated with outside community groups. They supply the materials to those volunteers to help clean up. They also maintain the parking lot, sidewalks, and other public areas throughout the park, besides just the clubhouse that they're immediately responsible for. Ducks Flying Discs also plans a bunch of events throughout the year. Just from one national disc golf tournament, there's an estimated $300,000 in economic impact to the city of Wichita. Then they also host or assist with dozens of other events annually, including statewide disc golf tournaments, disc golf league, the candy crawl that us as a department put on, national night out, cross country meets, the list goes on. They do have a lot of local collaborations as well through local businesses, the VA Medical Center, Kansas Disc Golf Museum, and all of those other groups, along with Ducks Flying Discs, work together to create a safe space for our community and provide resources for those who need it. So that community presence that they put in helps to create a point of contact for park visitors. They provide information to visitors. They provide concessions. They are open for people to use the bathroom, and we're expecting those park visitors numbers to go up significantly this coming year with the addition of the new playground that's going in, as well as the dog park. So they're already providing a huge impact, but that's only going to multiply when you see how many more visitors there's going to be to the park. Some financial considerations for this. I know rent was a concern since the initial pilot was lower rent. It started out at $300, but now their proposal includes the first year of the lease being $700 per month plus $200 for utilities, and then increasing $100 per year for a total 3-year lease with the option for 2 1-year renewals. Yeah, a total of 5 years that would be negotiated. Law has approved the lease agreement with us, and it's our recommendation that you approve this lease agreement and approve us to move forward to City Council. And as well, Chris, the owner of Ducks Flying Discs, is here if you have any additional questions regarding the proposal as well.
Any questions? Bill, since you're Tom?
Who's responsible for compliance, that everything is kept up to, as it is?
Right, so we do have a new process where myself, the director, and our accounting team are now jointly responsible to make sure there's checks and balances, that nothing gets missed. The city is also putting out an RFP for a new contract management system that would help all of the departments collaboratively work together to keep track of our contracts.
And we're putting it in place now. Part of that is making sure that it's automated so that we get notification when it's coming up, so that we can make sure that they're getting administrative for it to be able to address when increases, escalators come on.
What was the evaluation criteria for all the 3 candidates?
Like, so what criteria?
Evaluation. For instance, did the other two have more money but less quality? You know what I mean?
Right, so the criteria were the cost was one, the amount of rent, the indirect benefits, so like the volunteer work, the, investments that were put in besides just for rent. But then we also looked at their, like, what service category they were in, how it would benefit the community itself besides just the department. And then just the thoroughness of the proposal. In regards to the other, proposals received, we did receive one other proposal. But that company actually did not show up to their interview. So,
And I thought I heard you say two,
yeah, two total.
but two total. Thank you.
Yeah, two total.
Thank you.
And one of the things that we were trying to make sure that we move forward in the process as well is that we wanted someone who had experience in actually doing what they were proposing they were going to do, not necessarily just a concept. So we wanted someone who had a history and a track record of delivering the service that they were going to provide so that when we come in, we know that someone has the knowledge to be able to deliver on what they said they were going to offer.
Great questions. Any more questions for Katie or Chris? This is your district, sir?
I make a motion that we accept the lease agreement and recommend that the city council.
We got a motion, Nathan, second. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Right. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate you. Okay, next we've got USD 259, planning on a partnership opportunity.
Thank you. You could use the space bar or the mouse.
Okay. All right, good afternoon. My name is Luke Newman. I'm the Director of Facilities with Wichita Public Schools, and I'm joined here today with Mr. Cash from Inside Design Studios. They're one of our architects for our proposed bond work that we have coming up. I just want to start by expressing appreciation for allowing us the opportunity to share today. Appreciate the help and Tim as we've kind of got to this point to where we're able to present to you here today. So just thank you for the time. So if you don't know, if you hadn't heard, we are in the middle of a bond election in Wichita Public Schools. That bond election involves a variety of things, including 5 new elementary school rebuilds, 2 middle school rebuilds, and one of those elementary school rebuilds is McLean, and it's conveniently located right next to Columbine Park. So when we were looking at, see here, I'll go to the next slide. So when we were looking at our bond priorities, we looked at a lot of different pieces of data and enrollments and condition of facilities. But one of the things that we really looked closely at was also land and available land. Is we knew kind of roughly where we wanted to rebuild, but we knew we needed to have a certain amount of space to rebuild these sites. And so one of our priorities in this work has really been to try to avoid displacing kids. And in that process, the bond in general is to really just invest in our communities, provide buildings and spaces that meet best practices in today's educational standards. And as I said, it's kids as little as possible through this process. And McLean was one of the sites that was kind of right on the border. It's not quite large enough to rebuild a new building in the footprint. We'll get to that a little bit more, but in the footprint that we would really desire. We can force it to fit in that space, but it's really not ideal in terms of meeting those kind of best practices for today's standards in educational facilities. And so as we were exploring the potential of rebuilding McLean, we always kind of had it in the back of our mind that we'd like to try to partner with the city, partner with Park Board, in hopes of trying to expand our footprint just a little bit into the parkland. So we started discussions early on. This has been going on for probably at least 6 months. We've been exploring possibilities. Started with kind of taking just a portion of, potentially taking a portion of the parkland, to where we would majority be using our land, the majority of our land, and then taking a piece of parkland potentially. And then after exploring it with Tim and Reggie a little bit, sounded like the priorities, at least for the park board from what we were hearing, was that we'd kind of prefer to look at more of a land swap opportunity where maybe we look at building on some of the parkland, and then when it's done, we could potentially knock down the old facility at McLean and convert that to a park and kind of turn the whole piece of land into this super park opportunity to, what was the word that was used earlier, activate the parkland. So I really like that. So that's kind of what this work is about. We see this as an amazing opportunity to partner up with the city. We've already done it a little bit with, as we saw from the Park Elementary School and what we've done there. Looking to kind of continue that on with some additional projects should the bond pass. So I guess that leads me into the finalized. We've got a couple of options. I went out and walked the park, took some pictures. Looked like, from what I've heard, it's not used, but there's definitely some opportunity out here. As you'll hear from Mr. Cash, it's got a great piece of land if we were to potentially, if you were in favor of allowing us to build a new school on site. So we're really excited about it, and would like to really just explore a couple of options with you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dwayne to talk about a little bit more.
So, thank you for the opportunity. So as we started to look at the site, when you start to think about educational, a K-5 building, and a new design that meets today's needs and where education is going, we want a site about 15 acres, the typical elementary school site. When this site was built, it was about 5 acres a long time ago. And the building was pretty small. It's a very small footprint of a building. It's a one-story building. The building we're talking about is a much bigger building. It's got more students in the building. And we're looking at a one-story with a two-story element or a two-story building to try to get it to fit in the boundaries of the site. It will not fit, either one of those footprints do not really fit in the existing footprint very well. We have to get some more acreage to really make it work, to create a building that meets tomorrow's needs, just not today's. So in this concept, which we call the Columbine option, it really pushes the building up on the north part of the property, up along Columbine Street. It definitely then it swaps the land to where the new park would be on the south end. We've tried to minimize the tree interruption as much as we could, but really pushing it into that tight of site, you can see what we have to do. A lot of parking up on the northeast corner. We would try to do some kind of a playground element that would be between the two parks. You definitely have the parking between the park and the school. That could be a shared resource between the two. We thought that was a nice opportunity there to share some parking to help support the park and this option. And then reconnect the walking paths somehow integrated with the school. I would say with the caveat, this is a very preliminary footprint design. We don't really know what the building's going to be until bond issue passes and we engage with the community, engage with the stakeholders to design the footprint. This is a what if maybe. So we don't know if this is any final design at this time, but this gives you a pretty good idea of what it could potentially look like. Any comments on that, Luke?
Just that I highlighted the playground that we have there currently. And as Dwayne said, the new school would have a new playground that could potentially be kind of like a super playground is the way that we've been talking about it. But there's also that play space down there on the south end of the property that would still be an asset to the community. So that could absolutely remain. And a lot of that is new equipment.
Well, I did forget to mention that this existing park is 10.2 acres. After that swap, it'd be about 9.2 acres. What the park size would be. This second design is what we call school in the park. And the way this design is laid out is a little bit more in the center of the existing park. And what we really liked about this is it created a buffer between the neighbors to the building. It saved the perimeter trees all around that site, which are really nice trees. There's a nice row of trees between the parkland and the existing school boundary. We haven't made the road go through a gap in the trees to kind of to minimize that disruption. But it takes up more acreage to do it. But it really does kind of present itself, and it does create that park, school in a park kind of gesture. Again, you would have that open space where the existing building is. And this one, there is a little bit of two buildings, two spaces that are in the existing building that might be of some value. One of them is the current media center, which is a storm shelter for tornado shelter space. Smaller block, I'll show you the footprint of that. And then next to that is a small community gym type space. So if that was something that was of interest, that potentially could be saved as a park amenity as you build up the new park. That's the space we're talking about in that building. It's these two pieces here on the side. So this is that media center here on the lower piece, and then the gym, the top piece on the below out here on the right side. And this is this is a 2-story building that we just recently completed, something like that, or here's kind of that hybrid 1-story, 2-story building. This is the footprint you're going to see in the two drawings. This footprint basically. Any questions? Oh, you do. Sorry.
So we're kind of at a critical juncture. Obviously, we don't know if the bond will pass or not. But we did go ahead and bring our designers on board. We did that over the last month or so. Just knowing that if the bond passes, we'll really have to hit the ground running. So if it does pass, we'd like to immediately start moving into that more heavy-duty design development so that we can have our final design documents done by late fall to turn over to our contractors. Because we would like to have it's completed in time for fall occupancy of 2027. Because if it pushes out past that, then really we're probably not going to do a mid-year move for an elementary school. So we'd be looking at pushing it out a whole year at that point. So really just looking for some guidance from you today. You know, obviously not looking for a final decision, but just kind of wanted you to understand the kind of where we're at. And I know we covered a lot really fast, and there's been a lot going on over the last 6 months that we've tried to bring you up to speed in a very short period of time. So happy to answer any questions. And just as Wayne said, you know, this is very much up for massaging, changing. We want to work with you, and we want to figure out what's going to bring the most value to that community and really activate that park long term, and really provide for our students and communities in partnership with one another. So yeah, thank you for your time, and just open it up for questions if there is time for that.
Thank you.
And if I would, I want to give just kind of a point of reference on it. When the initial conversation started and they got engaged with the superintendent and administration here about looking at options for the particular park, they wanted to make sure they got feedback from Tim and I on what potential impact it would have on the park space itself and what are the things that would be beneficial for us as we move forward with using it. So Tim and I had an opportunity to visit with them and the architect team to say, here's some things that we need to consider, and then bring it to the park board for you guys to actually look at it and say what things you think would be good or bad and what you want to see moving forward. And this is just an initial concept to say that you're supportive of it or not to move forward. And the thing that Tim and I wanted to make sure that we, as we potentially move forward with the project is, are the existing assets that we have there on site what we need for that community? So we want to have a big community engagement process that's involved with it to say there's a basketball court there now, there's a tennis court that's there now. Are those the amenities that the community wants to see? And these are things that are kind of our aging assets in the park and our system. This may be an opportunity for us to be able to renovate and update those in the community a whole lot sooner than what we would be able to do with our existing dollars. So just a point of reference of why, how we got to this point, and wanted to present it to the park board to be able to give feedback on whether you're supportive of the concept or not.
Elementary school, like population.
We're shooting for enrollments of around, it'd be a 600 max capacity for kids. Right now, a lot of our schools are more like 400, 300, 400, kind of on the smaller side. So that sound about right?
It's actually could be a little bigger than that. It could be up to 700, 750 students, 80,000 square foot building.
target right now. That's my only concern, Reggie, is if this gets updated, especially which I'd be all for, concept of an administrative space, gymnasium, to offer after-school activities, but no, there's not a lot in that park. So I'm sure there's not a lot of graffiti, a lot of hooliganry going on in that park. But as the infrastructure improves, have the right security features in there that not hurting more.
So, and I think that's part of, as we move forward with the security measures that the school district puts in place and making sure it's consistent with what we're doing moving forward with security measures as well. And we've seen that the biggest thing that keeps people from there is activating the space. And I think with us being able to have some new improvements there, being able to use it more, that's going to help with a lot of that, those concerns as well.
So there is a playground right now in the park or at the school facility?
It's at the school facility.
Is that open to the public after hours, weekends and everything?
It should be, yeah. We usually, that's our instruction to schools, is keep them unlocked after hours. They don't always follow that direction, but I think they do at McLean.
I'm not real familiar with that part, but that would be one of my concerns, is that if we're gonna take space and improve it, I mean, I'm all for improving on our budget, but on their budget.
All taxpayers.
We're all taxpayers, I know. According to this schedule, the park itself or the public access would be closed for a year and a half or so.
Well, where we would be building, but that park that's currently there would be open. At that point, if.
You would be building on the.
After hours. Oh, yes. I see
We
what
would
you're
take that business construction site,
So the entire park would be more or less.
much, yeah.
So I'd encourage you to go to the DAB, District 6 DAB, talk to the people, because I'm sure it's used much more than you think it is, especially on weekends and holidays and whatever. Probably kids running around all the time playing flag football or whatever. And for them to lose that, I would get a lot of attention for that.
And that's part of what we're going to do in the community engagement process as well, reaching out to the DAB, being able to get involved with the neighborhood association, which one there in the area, so that even though there may be some period when it may not be available when there's renovation, but what would you like to see once we actually reopen the park so it best meets the needs of the community?
I'm sure they're gonna want some of our feedback too. And their feedback is gonna want our feedback.
Yeah.
I'm certain, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But the other thing I see from this is that we would be losing an acre or so of park property. And one of the things I hear over and over is we can't sell, we can't give away, we can't lose any park property. And we would lose access to an acre. I know that that's not much, but the whole K96 issue is probably about the same. And I just get a lot of flack, a lot of attention on that. So be prepared for that kind of issue.
That was part of what we were trying to get in front of, and say that what are those improvements and amenities that we may potentially get there as on site. And as the building move forward with having a shared parking lot space, which is the space there on site, and then having access to the park playground is there, and which we're actually expanding our footprint when we're working together in partnership, even though we may lose some initially with the building of the school.
And we talked about, if you wanted to keep the parkland, and that's still parkland, we'd be okay with that. The only problem is we'd be making improvements on the parkland that would be shared amenities. And if we're not taking on that land, then it would be the city's responsibility to maintain those improvements moving forward, which we figured would not be something you would necessarily want to do. So that's, yes, you're giving up land, but the benefit is we're going to be the ones responsible for maintaining it. Especially if you're getting the benefit of a, shared parking lot and playground space and all that through the process, but I understand the concern.
One of the two models or examples that you presented, one of them, we're losing trees, and those are premature trees, because I've driven past that park a few times. If those trees, go away, part of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Reggie, our policy is they have to replant so many of those trees on that property. Is that correct? What was our tree policy? Something like that, right?
So it's,
Correct me if I might be wrong.
Gary may be able to give more specifics on it.
The tree policy
is an internal policy that applies to city-initiated city projects. It does not apply directly to outside entities. Now, the heart of that policy can be applied through negotiation.
Sure.
But the actual policy itself is not functional to outside entities. Now, the trees that are on the west side of that park, the majority of them are mature Austrian pine trees. They look fairly nice now. They probably have a very short future just because of pines in general are dying all over the place.
Okay.
So while they may have a nice and valuable aesthetic right now, I would not consider them long-term assets.
Okay.
Uh,
Basically, I was saying we could get some new trees.
We would have no problem planting new trees out there.
Definitely get
They're
new
dead,
trees.
but they don't know they're dead.
Yeah. I hate the idea of losing 2 acres and the look of it, but the idea of a school in the park looked kind of cool to me.
Good swap.
It looks better than the balance, otherwise it looks heavier than the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks cool. That looks interesting. But I'm also not an engineer or anything like that, so they'll design better than I do, but
Something as as designers, we look at a lot is, scale to the neighborhood, scale to the community in that area. So, the more we can kind of bring that building off the corner a little bit and get it more centralized in that, will definitely bring a better scale to the neighborhood. Not that the other one would be bad. This one's just maybe a little bit more advantageous because it's just pulled away from the street just a little bit more than the neighbors.
this one, where does the playground sit? And how would they access it?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
Well, we can, if that's something that we want to make sure we have a shared playground, we'll make sure we can get that done.
And when you think about like knocking down all the school except that building, what's that process look like to make sure that, the ground is actually usable for, what I mean, for the community?
I think that would be part of the, whatever agreement is written up, what we want to leave and how we leave it, how that's done. There's a lot of investigation work still to be done. How do we separate this piece from that building with utilities, electric, and all the things it needs to function to? It was just an idea that we had. It's like, this is part of the best part of the building. Can we, and do you have any interest in using it? We didn't know, you might not have any interest in using it.
What's the nearest rec center to the community here?
Evergreen is the only one that's in that community, and that's always a challenge for us with having indoor space with gym and then have the shelter portion that's there for it. And then the performing arts center area of it allows us to be able to do some other programming that we are able to.
I hear what you're saying about moving the building more into the center, that it looks better, probably more aesthetic. But it basically means the whole outside of that on whatever is unusable as park property for kids to run around, for dogs, for whatever. So
It's a,
more lost space that way.
it's a different kind of, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That sort of goes into our master plan. We discussed it, right? And how does that, we kind of did a dialogue at the beginning of it until we delayed till June, but that was kind of what the heartbeat of it, which is how do we now function differently than we did in the past? Is how do we integrate community within all this? So.
There are other park school properties that are gonna come up like this. Is this the only one that you guys are looking at?
The only other one is the, what is it called? Claude Lamb Park over by Adams. That's one that we've talked about potentially rebuilding Adams on that site. That's the only other one.
Why is this one further along versus that one?
Adams is in our phase 2 group of projects. This kind of midtown center portion of the city, there are some important dominoes that all need to fall in the first phase. And so rebuilding McLean and Black, which are both in there, are critical first steps in order to get some of our other buildings closed in order to receive the kids. So that's why McLean is one of our is in the first. There's going to be 2 different packages.
Have you done like a traffic study or anything like that? Like how would growing the footprint of the school affect the neighborhood?
We haven't got that far. We were just trying to get the opportunity to get in front of all of you and see how realistic this even is.
But that's why we look for 15 acres when we build a school, because we want to get as much of that traffic off the roads onto the site. And you'll see in both these concepts here, there's a lot of stacking distance of 3 lanes. So we're trying to get all those cars, as many as we can on the site, so they're not on the streets clogging up the neighborhood. You know, something else that just, you know, not saying this will happen here, but what we've seen, the two buildings I've showed demonstrated as completed projects, it's a huge boost to the neighborhoods. The growth in the neighborhoods happen, people reinvest in their neighborhood. It's amazing the growth that happens when we rebuild these buildings back in the established neighborhoods. It really revitalizes the neighborhoods. It's a big impact.
Going back to what Dwayne had said earlier, you know, as we massage this, one thing we talked about was potentially reorienting the building footprint. Right now, you know, it's kind of looks like it's going more north, but north-south, but we could shift it the other kind of 90 degrees, and that would allow for the playground space to potentially continue on down into that lower space a little bit more to where it's that kind of continual park, kind of to this gentleman's, Mr. Ewart's concern. So that's just an idea. I mean, like I said, I think we're just trying to gauge how possible this truly is. So, you know, leaving today, I'd love to have an idea of, is this something we can even realistically continue to explore, or do we just kind of need to shut the door? Because I need to start giving these guys some clear direction in terms of yes, no. If this isn't going to work, we need to figure something else out.
Start here. Best use.
Are you gonna make a motion?
I want a motion.
Is it a motion to support, or what type of motion can we make at this juncture, Nate?
Oh, I mean, kind of
Just like an
really
explanation?
however you want, but it's nothing that, there's no like binding action or
Okay.
it's being requested, I
So
think.
mine would be for the best interest, instead of having to close down a school, to tear down a school, to build a school. Looks like it's in the best interest of the city as a whole. Something such as option 2. So my motion would be, I am all for moving forward with the process, understanding there's outside limitations such as the bond process and community engagement. But at this point in time, absolutely pursue. This is going to happen. It's going to be broke apart. I'm okay with option 2.
Does that seem?
Maybe not the last part about, or you can. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know, this has to be broken into 2 elements or 1.
I'm just trying to think, but I'm okay with option 2, just like kind of.
Okay, and option 2 is agreeable from the committee, from.
Yeah, that works, sorry.
And I don't,
Yes, please.
just, I think what we're looking for today is the support of exploring it further and not necessarily committing to option 1 or 2 at this point, just that they're going to explore it further. And then once they get further along, then they will come back for approval to say yes or no. This is the concept that you would support once they have secured the funding and the next steps in the project.
Assuming the funding gets secured and all that stuff.
So this is just more so of supportive of the concept of exploring further this space in the business manner.
Let's go in front of the council if we approve it, or is this just?
It typically, Nate will have to confirm it's park land, so I'm not sure if it would have to go to council for final.
It says this is Board of Park Commissioners. It was donated in 1954.
Yeah, it's park.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it would still go to.
Still go to council.
Since there's construction on city property.
Okay.
I'd kind of need to double check that for sure, but it definitely has to go to park board.
I don't know if I'm ready for a motion, to support a motion, partly because we don't know the community interest or their feelings about losing it for that period of time. I would be ready to offer more agreement to explore more to, you know, you've got the bond issue is the end of this month, and then we come back with more. You take it to the DAB, you take it to Maggie, you take it to other places and find out more at that time. So I would be ready to support something greater later. That makes sense?
Yeah, let them go ahead and figure more, get us more information to come back with.
I think that falls in line with your motion to just
Correct.
explore.
That we're supportive of exploring it further to look at the options, and part of that will be the community engagement and those pieces as well before they move forward with the final product.
I'm not opposed to this idea.
Sure.
We're losing parkland, we're losing parkland for a year and a half. Things are gonna change. There's gonna be people upset. No matter what.
Well, Tom, it's your district. You wanna make the motion?
Um,
Not Nathan, not that we don't want you to make the motion.
So I would move that we allow the school board, it's the school board, right?
Yes.
To continue exploring these options for this for Plain School and Columbine Park.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, same sign? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, what is the process from here? I guess my fear is, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I think my fear is we get 3, 4, 5 months down the road, and if we find that the community's not supportive, or there's some major hiccup that's gonna throw us off, and it's no longer on the table, and now we're behind. I mean, I guess worst case scenario, we're a year late in delivering the building to that community. So I guess I would just appreciate hearing what is that? What are those next steps that we need to go through from here?
I think Tom hit the nail on the head with engaging with Councilmember Ballard and her DAB and the DAB at District 6 and bringing those folks in early on. Their feedback, and I mean, that's the community, right? I mean, and I believe there's a neighborhood association there.
Benjamin Hills.
Benjamin Hills, yeah. Yeah, so there's a neighborhood association there as well. I would engage with them as well too. And bring them up to speed on what the hope is, what the vision is, and that way it doesn't come as a surprise to them.
Sure.
Then they can bring it back to us as a neighborhood association.
Exactly.
The DAB can send us back information to the channel, to city manager's office.
Yes.
Their feedback to us.
With the motion today as well, and say that you presented to the park board to say that they're supportive of exploring it further, feedback from the community. So I think that will have some weigh-in on knowing that you've gone through the process and you're concerned about making sure we get feedback as we move forward with the project.
Okay, fantastic.
I'll talk to Councilmember Ballard about this or inform her of it, but I'd encourage you to reach out as well so that it doesn't come up as a surprise.
Okay.
Even if you don't do the public meeting until May or, whatever. I understand your concern about delays, but first it's the election on the 25th, is it? Something like that. So.
Yep. Like that.
And who would write the agreement? How would that happen? Who would have the actual final language then? How would that happen?
That you name?
I mean, I probably, yeah, it just kind of depends how things.
I can assist from our team with helping facilitate getting the information and the DAB and those things so that we can get on that calendar as quickly as possible.
We love trees too, so throw trees in there.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Guys.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any continuation of prior business, so we've got a finance update, I believe.
All right, good afternoon. We've got a couple of different things I want to talk about, want to discuss, but first is going to go through the year-end wrap-up for 2024. All right. So as far as revenues go, we did fall a little bit behind what we had anticipated for our, as far as budgeted revenues, came in at about 89%. Most of that on the recreation side. Now, we did have Brewer has also been closed. so we didn't have a lot of revenue coming in from them. We were also had to close about 2 weeks worth of swimming pools this year. So those are factors that came in with some of that shortfall. But as far as the expenses go, we also were well under budget with our expenditures this year. That also came out with the drought. There was a lot of savings that came out with mowing schedules and things like that. So did had a really good year. And as far as our cost recovery goes with our recreation side, I think one of the main reasons why rec centers are down is because of Brewer. That does include, we still have a couple of expenditures coming in that we're still paying, like we still have to pay the insurance on the building, that comes up, and some utility costs, and we weren't generating any revenue through Brewer. Athletics, I know we had a drop in some of our football numbers, so that came into play. But we're also pretty excited and pretty optimistic about next year's football program with the conversion of our partnership with USC, with the school district. And then looking at golf finished up pretty strong. A little lower on the overall revenue, but we also finished underneath what we had underneath the projections for the expenditures also. So we finished the year at $1,082,000. That is after we transferred about $650,000 from the bottom line into the project account. So we were able to move about $650,000 to make future improvements to the grounds and to the clubhouses. And pretty stable cost recovery, just about the same amount that we've been looking at all year long. And with that, I'll pause for any questions about this year's budget.
I got a question. Could you speak to specialty parks? That one was down to what parks fall under that?
Okay, that's mostly Watson.
Watson? Okay.
Yeah.
And part of that is a transition. We had some time frame when the train was down and not functional, so we lost revenue that went along with that. We also had a transition in the administrator that was there on site, so we had some expenses that went along with that with the transition, so that's how it impacted it. And then leading into this year, we see being able to recuperate those things to get back.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And so the other thing I want to talk about is, and Reggie can help pass these along. With our agreement with the ice rink management down for the ice rink center, we have to basically approve their budget every year. And so this is just what their 2025 proposed budget. After looking at that, I do have a concern about their personal services. I think they might be a little low on what compared to what their actuals were last year. That does consider that they were gearing up and had more personal services gearing up for the figure skating tournament. But I would like
What all falls under personal services?
yeah.
What all falls underneath it?
Oh, that's going to be like their full-time, part-time staff and all their benefits. And this is for the people who are on site operating that building. And then they also have a couple of requests for about $150,000 worth of capital. It's not going to be part of their operating budget. And then Reggie and I will be having discussions with them and with the city maintenance on who's going to be covering that and when and if we move forward with some of those projects.
What do you think, how far off do you think they're off from their responsibility?
Well, they finished the year at about 440,000, total. And so I think they're asking for about 3.6. So I think it's gonna be close to that $400,000 mark. And so I would like, Park Board to look at it and then, approve the budget with, giving Reggie and I, like an opportunity to further negotiations with further examine.
Are these based on historical previous data?
Yes, yeah, we've been using, working with them since 2021. And so we have a good 3 years worth of actuals. Now, some of that, they've also had extended periods of time when they were only operating with one sheet of ice. And so there's some guesswork, there's some looking at, well, what does a full year of 2 sheets of ice look like? Because we've really not had a lot of that.
In the capital improvement items that they have on there as well, looking at the spaces upstairs, we're looking at getting prepared for to have a tenant that come on space, use the space that we're rented to offer services on site. You guys know before that Genesis had the space that was there. Now they're looking at transition to potentially have another vendor on site to utilize that space, but it will require some improvements there. We're just gonna have to work through what that looks like and whether that's something that comes out of operating budgets for Public Works or from Park CIP to make those improvements initially, or what investment they may potentially have to make to get it prepared for the tenant to activate it.
That's part of that 150.
Correct.
Fees are there if the city's taking it over?
Sorry?
What management fees are there if the city's taking it over?
So they actually, they have a management fee of $6,500 a month that we pay them for operating the facility. So they have a budget that they manage that goes along with it. They have revenue that they generate with it, and then they have line items that are specified there that they have to stay within. So as part of that, once when they get to a certain amount and revenue that they have to keep a minimum in the account that's there for operating expenses. And once they consistently go over that amount, then they start with paying some of those dollars back to the city as revenue for the so.
And if they go over that monthly, if they go over the monthly budget as set up in this form, then we can reduce that monthly management fee based on how much they went over. So there are some options in the MOU.
This is significantly better than when we looked at this when the switch was made. So
I'm sorry.
this is significantly better than it was when we made the switch.
Yes, definitely moving in. They're better than what we were before. We have mechanism in place to be able to monitor, seeing what's coming in on the month, to seeing what those expenditures are that we're actually getting, and then having some accountability to make sure that they stay within the budget that we have allotted. So that may not have always been the case.
Right.
And we also had a lot of back expenses that we had to take care of during the transition. Things that left by the prior.
Is there an expectation to get to break even?
That is the goal. That is the goal. They have been notified that they have within the next couple of years, in order to break even. Their contract, I think, goes up in 2026, and so that we have an opportunity to review that here in a couple of years.
It was a 5-year agreement?
Right.
When did so now they have 2 sheets of ice, is that correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
They have both sheets now.
The balance has been that they haven't had consistently 2 sheets of ice during the time frame that were there, and then there was some investments in it to be able to get it to that did have 2 sheets to start out.
They're stable now. That's the difference I noticed on here from that.
They are stable.
They're stable now. So they have the opportunity to turn down and go forward because they're stable.
So what was the motion that you needed from us?
It's just a approval of their proposed budget with the understanding that Reggie and I can negotiate like that their professional service, their personal services moving. That much.
And then with the capital, the capital request, that's not something that's necessarily included in that motion. That's,
That would be part of
that's
the
separate thing.
operational
Okay.
budget, right?
That's just like no for them, for us to consider. Okay.
So any improvements that they do on site, anything above $1,000 has to come back to us to approve for them to actually make any investment in the facility itself. So anything that goes along has to come to us, back to us too.
Well, I guess I will, I'll make the motion to approve or guess, do you guys have other questions or discussion? The proposed Wichita Eye Center budget with the idea that Reggie and Brandon, you guys are still negotiate the personnel services? That sound all right, Nate?
Sounds good.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, same sign? Okay.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Katie, oh no, Reggie, do you have anything communicating back from the manager's office?
That's the only thing. I know that the master plan has been something that we've been looking at, working on. We did submit from feedback from our meetings that
It wasn't in.
to do to move forward with that. We've gotten it reviewed and with some additional edits. We're meeting with the manager's office this week to do some final revisions to it. And then it will be the next stage, we'll be looking at going out for bid to find someone to actually provide a proposal for that.
Okay.
So we are moving forward with that to have something in place that we can have to kind of guide where we go forward in the future.
What would be, when would you expect to select a vendor? Like May?
Don't know the time frame on it specifically, because once we get this done, then we have to go through purchasing and look at,
Sure.
what we're gonna do with this for us, the timeline for responsive and being able to review it and then make a decision from there. And I'm sure as we get further along with that, we'll engage the park board as well, so they can be involved in that process of will potentially be the vendor.
So once it gets past purchasing, then we'll get plugged into that.
Right, so we'll actually put it out and then once it's there, once they put together a review panel for it, we can reach out to see who will be involved in that with reviewing those proposals.
Can you see the draft of the master plan?
I'm sorry?
Can we see the draft of the master plan?
Have the drafts.
We have the draft of what the potential requirements will be.
Oh, that would be good too.
And that's what would be feedback from the committee that we have with reference to the park board.
Yeah, is that something you can share?
I'll double check to make sure if it's something that we, before it goes out, and we're meeting on Thursday, so I'll have more information after that.
Yeah, let me know. If you can't share it, if I have to go one-to-one,
And I don't think it will be an issue with actually sharing. I just want to make sure that we go through the proper process before we.
Thank you. Thank you.
Real quick. Who seconded the ice center? Tom. Okay. Thank you, Tom.
All right, Katie, you're up again.
So popular.
Thank you for the update, Reggie.
A pretty quick presentation. Social media has slowed a little bit again. We are in February, so this is our slow season. But here is the updated follower counts. Everything is pretty much stayed the same. Not enough of the pages grew to even round up to the next 100, with the exception of golf. So go golf. It rounded up to the next 100, but again, slow growth right now. The top post for the Wichita Park Recreation page last month was for the LEAD ICT, which is a mentoring program that kicked off in January. That post was shared 53 times and it was clicked through 10 times. So we're seeing people engaging in this very new program that we have that is grant funded. So we're pretty excited about that moving forward. OJ Watson, we got a new dog. And it is ADA accessible, so we were really excited about that. Again, that's also grant funded, so we're pretty excited about finally implementing this. It's been in the works for a little while. And the OJ Watson page, the reach actually increased over 100% this past month. So exciting to see numbers going up when it's typically our slow season. And then for golf, the top post was about the closures that we had. We all know that we had a big snowstorm in January. So that may affect our attendance, our numbers just a little bit. But keeping our citizens safe is always one of the most important things that we do. But even despite the closure, our social media stayed active, and the golf page was up 227%, with how many people it reached last month. And that's all I've got for you today. I'll stand for any questions you might have.
One thing that we're gonna look at incorporating, probably starting next month, is having an update on actually what our marketing plans are to actually get out to get programs to the community. So you can see what those avenues are. These are results of it that Katie is able to help track. But we have a marketing team as well that puts a lot of the information out to engage the community, kind of see what we're doing during different times of the year to promote programming and that we have. So we're gonna incorporate that starting in March.
Reggie. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
All right, Reggie, you got a recreation update?
It's that time of the year where we're just put out the guide for the spring. So that will be coming out pretty soon with kicking off a lot of the programs that we have that are in place there. Our tennis center is still extremely busy with programming that we have there with the indoor space being used only. Our rec centers are active with using indoor space for our gyms, for gym rentals, for league play, and for people doing open gym. And our programs are doing really well at our centers and making. So we're getting prepared for our summer camp that's going to happen, as well as we have a spring break camp that we have at 3 of our locations that we've already started marketing for. And we're looking forward to when the weather gets a little bit warmer and everyone gets outside to start doing more of the activities that we do outside as well.
Reggie, you may have mentioned of a program with Wichita Public Schools and the football league. When does that kick off for and just for everybody's update?
So we're starting, it's actually going to kick off this fall. So we're having our meeting tomorrow night, actually, with our current players and our coaches from USD for 259. So last year we entered into a partnership with USD 259, where our youth football program and USD we're going to merge to create where there are junior programs for the high schools and be feeders into those schools. As part of that, the school district committed to hiring coaches for 7th and 8th grade teams. And then they will align with the ACEs, like will be the junior ACEs, and the programs will advance up to that. Part of that will be that the kids will be assigned based on where they actually live in the community, similar to what they would do with zone for their elementary, middle school, and high school. And the big benefits of that is that now we're getting a broader reach. We're able to get kids that are in the community where they are, that's there. We're able to engage the school district where they're having paid coaches for the 7th and 8th grade teams to start building that pipeline up to those schools. And we're looking at just outside of just being football, how we can align with them academically, how we can have them accountable for what things they need to do in the school day so that we can build better people overall, not just good athletes.
Sure.
So we want it to be a good combination of the two. And we're looking at some options to, as part of the transition, looking at some funding sources to be able to help with some of that transition and making part of the enrollment process where it includes both the registration fee and the uniforms. That's one of the challenges that we've had, that some organizations did a really good job with managing that process, and kids are ready to go at the beginning of the season, and some it may be mid-season for kids to get uniforms. So little things like that we'll be able to streamline and leverage some of those partnerships between the school district and city to help reduce some of those costs and make it more efficient for kids to get in and have a good experience and learn some of the structure that goes along with that.
Hello. Thank you for sharing. Any questions for Reggie?
Just one, have you thought about long-term about, since the drought is continuing, pools are going to open before you know it. So what does that look like? Are we going to have to shut down early again? Have you thought about those things? It was just,
So we've had some initial conversations on what that potentially could look like, kind of worst case scenario like we did last year, that we may potentially close earlier. We're also looking at ways that, fortunately, once the pools are full, they're full. But we're doing some things right now where we're going in and doing caulking and sealing and painting to make sure that we have the least amount of wastage or water loss at each of those locations. So we have RFP out now that for a company to come in and repaint and seal all the pools that are there, looking at the operation system, make sure they're working the way they should. And through the last budget process, we got a second full-time person in aquatics that's what they do, is go and look at facilities and see what maintenance and repair things that need to be done. So we can be a little bit more proactive with addressing things instead of reacting when things happen. Because we have one person that was responsible for everything with hiring, training, operations. Now we're able to divide some of those duties up to be able to address some issues in advance.
So you're all over like usual.
Great question. Thank you. Other questions for Reggie? You, Reggie? Reggie, you're up, sir.
Good afternoon. Katie mentioned that the weather might have had a small impact on our production. That was very kind of her. I think we're only open maybe 5 days a month, and even those days were not great. So I'll go through these little numbers real quick. For the entire month, we did 910 rounds. Last year we did 2660, and then in 23 we had a better year or a better month. The way I look at January, February, even December, anything we get is bonus. I don't factor those into budgeting, so I'm not too concerned. You like to get more, but it is what it is. So the good news is we had the snow. Ice is not great. Snow was actually the best thing that can happen. It creates kind of a blanket, if you want, on the grass, so it protects it from the cold weather. So if we're going to be closed, I would rather have snow than just freezing ground. So hopefully that helped us. I should say January rounds up top, but it's the same, obviously, 1 month in. Cart rentals, we did 4,500. Last year, we're at 14,000. So we do have a little ways to go, catch up there. I'm questioning that. Actually, now that I'm looking, I think I forgot to change that. We were only about 3,000 down on cart rentals. I forgot to change the month, I guess. So again, sorry about that. That's incorrect. It was about 3,000 down from what we did last year in January. Food and beverage, we are down a little bit. Again, we were closed, so nobody in the clubhouses. Driving range, we did $940 for the entire month. They were closed as well. And then merchandise, again, no one in the clubhouses. So altogether, total revenue with memberships and then the tournament entries that we've already started, we're only down about 48,000 from last year, so we should be able to make that up. I'm really excited about some of the things we have coming up. The good news, there's a few things. We opened tournament register. All of our classes are almost full that have opened so far. Our Hookah Kid classes are completely full. We opened the Shamrock Scramble tournament already. It filled up immediately with 36 teams. So we opened up Sunday and it's almost full already. So we're going to have about almost 300 players. That's what the St. Patrick's Day weekend. Brandon kind of mentioned a little bit that about the budget. We did transfer 650,000 over to the project fund. So the general project fund, that's what was left from previous year. Plus the 650 puts us at 840,000. Plus everything that's in each individual fund you see on the right. So altogether, still leaving $1 million in the general fund. We're closing in on $2 million in the project fund. Projects, the irrigation is done, contract signed. The crew should start to mobilize on site at the end of this week or first next week. We'll have a kind of a pre-construct or pre-work meeting, I guess, to lay out the perimeter, and they should be started in the next 10 days. At Sim to get that irrigation replaced. So I'm very excited to see that job get started and get finished. Hopefully by we're looking at in April probably before the season. So that's a big deal. We are in process for a new beverage contract. We want to make sure that we're getting the best possible deal and all the stuff that we do in the clubhouses beverage wise. So that closed Friday, we'll get that done over the next few weeks, but hopefully that comes up very well. And this week we just finished kind of staff meetings at each course, bringing inside and outside all together to lay out plans for 2025. Our major focus this year, everything kind of went crazy last year. This year is court conditions, number one, customer service, number two. Not so much in that order, but those are the two areas that we feel like we can definitely separate ourselves and make improvements The course is bouncing back from the tough year last year, confident with the planning that we have in place. And then customer service is always something to get better at, so big push on that. And then we did, after 4 months of discussion with the golf board, we had a special meeting this past Thursday. And we went over new dues, membership dues and green fee rates that will go into effect April 1st. So our social media will probably get pretty active once I send out that announcement next week. But we did a slight increase, and that was part of when city council approved the irrigation, part of that was they basically told us the requirement for that approval was for us to come up with some additional revenue to make sure that we are in a good place to pay back a portion of that we have to pay back. So those are going to, again, into effect on April 1st. And I'm very excited about this year. Some new things, a lot of events, a lot of golf and non-golf events, lessons, programmings from everything from junior golf, ladies, beginner, adult, across the board. We got a lot of things happening this year, so pretty excited. And I'll answer any questions.
Jesse?
I think one thing that I think that Jesse's team did a really good job on, could you share a little bit about the corporate membership that you're working on as well and where you are with that?
Yeah, so we're just rolled out a corporate membership option, which basically the layout of it, it would have 4 designees or whatever the company is that would have a membership. And then with that, they would have 20 guest passes. And they could buy more guest passes in lumps of 20 at a time. And we worked on the pricing and all that. It's $5,700 for everything all in, and then you buy the round if you need more. The plan, or not the plan, the goal obviously it's good revenue, but also I want to create partners. I want to get with the businesses in our community, and if they're involved, they have that membership now. They have a more vested interest in our product, and there may be opportunities to kind of partner with projects and different things down the road. So I'm excited to see where that goes. We just put that out. We're being very proactive on reaching out to people instead of just waiting for the phone to ring. So we've targeted some businesses that we think would be great candidates. We're going after that. So hopefully I'll have some more updates on some new corporate memberships next month.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Okay, Gary, you're up there.
Oh,
Do this last. Yeah. Okay, so forestry is pretty, uneventful. We've done a lot of work, but, nothing out of the ordinary. Done a lot of inspections, prunings, tree removals. Emergencies were not really outrageous, so, that was really good in terms of being able to get other things done. We are still working through the tree stump removal contract. That'll be going for multiple months into the future while the contractors get that done. But it is going well. I actually almost took this slide out because I've had it in there for a long time, and John Bacon, our new arborist, has left it in there. We do a lot of work in Lucity. Our workforce come through it. Our assets are managed through it. But we're using our Lucity database better now. And a lot of that is because of John's leadership. So I really want to give him a shout out for that. And he's doing a lot of data analysis that is altering the way that we function from a crew standpoint. And I think that's going to really have a positive impact in our overall production numbers. So I'm really happy with the work that he's doing. So our regular scheduled activity is really what we are scheduled to do. It's just the work that we are intending to do in every month. There's nothing new there.
Park maintenance, busy month with snow and ice removal, and that's true for also forestry. It's true also for construction and special projects. Lots of snow that we had to push around and get melted off, ice to get melted off, that kind of thing. Besides that work, we've been doing preparations for the green up, which is probably going to happen in the next 6 weeks. And so that's athletic maintenance, noxious weed. That's a lot of work they've been doing on. Also, we're taking this opportunity to work on CDL training. We have several new faces, which is a fantastic problem to have. But that requires some investment through internal training. And that is just the system that the feds have set up where I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but basically we have to train our own CDL drivers. We have approved trainers that are our employees, and that's all handled through a federal database and clearinghouse that we have to register through. So a lot of that gets done. It takes up our time, but it's time well invested when we have safe drivers. And also certified commercial pesticide applicators. We need those as well. Have quite a bit of illegal dumping to deal with. We talked a little bit about that last time. There's more of that in the next slides. We've been really busy with our refuse crews, just getting around emptying trash carts. We are training some new employees on the utilization of those trucks so that because we've done hiring and we have the truck that we got from Public Works, also the route for Public Works, but we have that work to do. So we're doing that training in-house as well. But the volume increases. So just a chart here for the surge of illegal dumping, 2017 to 2024. This is not including any of our regular park refuse where somebody takes their picnic trash and throws it in the trash can. This is all illegal dumping, whether it's in a park, on a street, in an alley, on the side of the road, whatever. So let's see, we've got the hours expended in the green, and the red line is number of dumping sites cleaned. So in 2024, we cleaned just over 2,000 sites, which that's a fairly big increase from 2017. Any questions on that, Dana?
How does that correlate with like the trash companies' price increases? Are we seeing more increase in illegal dumping when they raise their rates?
I've not done that analysis. It's a great question, though. I'll have to take a look at that. I can only imagine that there's a little bit involved there. I know it's hard to get rid of a mattress. Pick up a lot of those. It's hard to get rid of tires, and we pick up a lot of those. But we also pick up just tons of household trash. We pick up, entire roofs where a roofing contractor gets paid for hauling it away, and they haul it to our park. So, that takes a while to get picked up, and that is, you see that reflected in this data. So, refuse crew, different than the itinerant camp crew. So I added up just over 51 tons of debris cleared in January 2024. That's just over 100,000 pounds. Just refuse, that's just our regular emptying trash carts. The itinerant camp crew, 22.7 tons debris just in January. One site accounted for just over 13 tons. debris that was cleaned up by the itinerant crew. We did, with that site, it was a partnership between ourselves and the state. It was on state property. And so we provided the labor and the equipment to retrieve all the debris from underneath I-135. And the state provided the hauling of the debris with their dump trucks. So that was a nice partnership for that, but it was a huge undertaking.
Quick question, real quick.
Yes.
So did the itinerant camp clear the 22.7 tons in just January
Just January.
2025 alone?
Yes.
And then refuse did 28.67 tons from January 24 currently?
Yes.
Okay.
No, 28.67 tons in January. That's up 13.51 tons from January 24,
Okay,
comparing month over month.
okay.
January 24 compared to January 25, we're up 13.51 tons.
Awesome.
So a significant increase. More itinerant camp crew information. Again, these are pictures from that I-135 site. It was very extensive. Just an idea of what we're up against on some of these sites. And so I wanted to I didn't have any pictures of it to put in the slide, available and ready to get in here, but I did want to mention the Brett and his crew, his construction and special services crew, special projects. We had an unexpected special project for him, and he took that and ran with it. We had an emergency flood event over at the Brewer facility where, because of a mistake by the contractor, some pipes froze. It wasn't anything that our internal staff did or anything like that, but we had some assets, but we had materials and stuff stored in this area that was flooding. And so Brett and his crew, and then we had some other guys from forestry and park maintenance jump in and help, and they were able to get everything that was susceptible to being damaged. Maybe some of the damage is going to be assessed later, but get it moved out of that room and to another site. And then everything that was still there is up on the floor and on shelving and that kind of thing. And then was able to make sure that there was no additional problem for any more leakage. So give a shout out to Brett and his crew for really jumping into action on that. So any questions for maintenance?
Do you want
Yeah.
to over the web?
You know what? I did have one other thing, but go ahead.
I had a question from some Riverside folks about their playground equipment. When is that going to be put back in place?
Tim, you want to help me out with that?
Sure, yeah, there's probably some misinformation going around, probably around Central Riverside Playground. There is funding in 2025 that we have initiated for Central Riverside, specifically for the playground. This 2025 playground rehab and development funds, which means that it's only for playgrounds. It just happens that Central Riverside, there's the same playground that's about 30 years old. It's now time for that playground to be replaced. Similar to how they're saying playground at O.J. Watson that just got replaced last year. Similarly, how a playground at Meadows Park and Ailey Park and things like that, it was just time for it to be replaced. I think there's an idea that there's a specific CIP fund that is dedicated to Central Riverside, which is not accurate. So I think the goal for Central Riverside is that because part of the playground, there's two pieces to the playground. One is what's done, I can't remember when it was, but it's new-ish. And then there's one that is sand. The sand playground is the one that we're intending to replace with something different. The idea is to combine funding from 2025 and 2026 to do something unique for the playground. There's, I think it's 400, or I can't remember. There's, yeah, $450,000. I don't think we're planning on spending all of that for the 2 years because we like to kind of hang on to some funds in case, you know, things happen at playgrounds, things need to be replaced, there's different surfacing that needs to be done, but the idea is to utilize funding from 2025 and 2026 to do something unique. I think that right now the Wolves are thinking something a little bit more inclusive, something that is able for, since it's kind of the home park, I guess you could say, the home playground for a lot of people in the community to utilize that. Our goal is to go out, is put out an RFQ to engage with a design firm to then begin having community engagement. That would be part of the RFQ, would be to do that community engagement, set up workshops, set up things to engage with the community, go to the DAPs and gear what the community wants back. So we aren't planning on putting something out without going to the community first and hearing what they want there. But I think there is a misunderstanding on where the funding for that playground is for. There's not a separate CIP item just for Central Rivers.
Schedule.
Yeah, so my plan is to start drafting the RFQ pretty much any time now. I think the idea would be to get an RFQ out on the street sometime before summer and get feedback, have them on board. I think we do have a little bit of some logistics we still need to work out because we will need to utilize 2026 funding in order to make it happen. So I wouldn't expect any shovels in the ground or anything like that in 2025. This is 2026 would be earliest for construction. Again, trying to get that community engagement and just knowing that we have to use 2 years of funding. You can't go jump out and grab 2026 money. So that's kind of the hold up. I didn't think that, you know, knowing how costly playgrounds tend to be with demo and stuff, I didn't feel like just utilizing 1 year funding really did the service that's needed for Central Riverside. So that's kind of what we were thinking internally. If we here go to the public and they say, no, just put on a playground, we're fine. Let's allocate money elsewhere, then that's, you know, that's what we'll do. But that's not kind of the approach that we've taken, at least thus far. Did that answer your question?
It answers my question, but Riverside is full of unique individuals.
Yeah. But, and I encourage them to come once we have open houses and things like that to engage. So.
Yeah, they may invite you to the DAB or something like that, or have Councilmember Ballard do that.
Sure. No, I mean, happy to go to the DAB. I mean, that's why.
I've been trying to explain the CIP process. Leslie.
And I know there was an inquiry from Councilmember Ballard as well that we gave a response to it as well. And I offered to come and speak about the process also. And I think what part of the confusion is that there's a budget line that says that it's for playgrounds and it's not just for one location, it's for system wide. And then that's part of what Gary team does is we're doing playground inspection. So when it's designated for one asset on the park, if there's remaining funds that's left over, it doesn't mean that it's going to go replace the next asset in the park.
That's part of the confusing part. And then Tim said something about a unique facility or something like that, which everybody can, oh, what's that?
Yeah, no, it was mostly just to do like a unique playground, not just kind of a standard playground that you'd see in all of our other parks, something that's a little bit more unique to Central Riverside. That's site specific. Yeah.
Is one other thing that I want to show you real quick, and thank you, Tim, for that explanation. Much better than I could have done. So I have shown you before the dashboard that we made public facing with a lot of the data that we collect. So I just wanted to navigate to that real quick. So this is the public facing City of Wichita website, Park and Recreation page. So parks, and go to operations. And then if you click on this hotkey, it will take you to a different site. And I was having some trouble with the maps earlier today, but I asked IT to fix it and they were Johnny on the spot, and looky there, they are fixed. So the big change, and this is illegal dumping dashboard right here. The big changes in the homeless remediations, the itinerant camp cleanup. You can see a lot of different colors of data points there. And I'm just going to select 24. These would be all the itinerant camp cleanups we did in 24. You can zoom in, they are interactive. You can find out quite a bit of information if you just click on it. But one of the big changes that you all know that we're going through is going from contractor-based to internal crew-based. So the different colors represent several different things. And some of that has to do with, was it a contractor? Was it internal crew? Was it this type of location or that type of location? So there's a lot of different pieces of information that are displayed, and we're still massaging the data points to become even more easily understandable at a glance. So this is still a work in progress, but I just wanted to show you what was being done. So there's not as many dots in 24 because we've only had a month's worth of data, but you can see already that we, in 2025 rather, I'm just a year off, in 2025, we've had a total of 59 work orders just in the 1 month. So we're busy. We're busy with this activity. And so we're working really hard with PD, housing, and all those other groups as partners, as a part of the process, to be sure that everything is done with dignity and with the individual in mind, and trying to help our community, regardless of whether you're housed or unhoused. So we're doing the best we can. Any questions on any of that?
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
All right. Here we go.
Right. Doug, you got how's the Park Foundation doing?
Pretty good. They've got a strategic plan finished, and they're going to start implementing it in March.
Okay.
And so I'll start with interviews from the communities, bringing in that information from the communities, and then build a strategic plan from public input.
That's something that they need help with from the park board to share and disperse?
I'll ask them when they get done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, even with the engagement piece.
Oh, I'll ask them that too. Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah.
Brian Fry's on that.
Yeah.
And so he's passed part.
Oh, he's been great. Oh, that's awesome. I like hearing that. Okay, well, we can help with anything with that.
One more thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The park license tags are changed to be customized now.
Okay.
And so that's going to be fun. So it'll still be the Wichita flag, but you can customize it to whatever you want. And so I think there's kind of a discussion whether it's going to be 5 or 6 positions, characters. But you can go on to the Kansas Department of Revenue tag. And if you want to go and get your specific customized lettering done, you can go out there, see if one's already taken. The other thing is, in the old days, there's several types of tags. There's the veteran tags, and then there's the city tags, park tags, and things like that. Used to be you could have the same customization with different tags. So a veteran could have something and somebody else in parks could have the same. That's not going to happen now. It's just going to be one for all of the tag designs. It's a little bit of the change too. So they get about $385,000 a year for park board projects.
And the fee's not gonna increase for them, like the price per tag? I think it's $50 per tag.
Yeah, that's the same.
Okay, cool. Sure, that's awesome. The only update I have is Phil is gonna be participating in the, and thank you, Phil, for making the time, in the interview process for our next director. So I think those things taking place on the 21st, is that correct? Something like that.
You know where I'm going to, because it's just, that has a bunch of acronyms where to be at.
I
So
don't know.
Manager's office.
how do you get there? I don't-
It's on the 13th floor.
Can I go there alone, or do I need an escort to go there?
Call up.
Yeah, when you walk in, they'll tell you.
Okay, so I'll call up this.
Call up to the park department. and then-
I'm back here. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I need to know. No, I don't need to get arrested.
No, we don't need you to arrest Bill.
Kathy at the front desk would just yell at you. That'd be the worst that would happen.
No, but thank you, Phil, for doing that. I think so I don't know how many interviews are gonna happen or whatever, but feel like it's an all-day thing or
1 to 5.
yeah, 1 to 5 type of thing. So unfortunately, I can't be to do it. So I'm excited for that and see what comes out of this. Reggie, you're up, sir.
Just to follow up on what Gary mentioned about the homeless and itinerant camp cleanup, is that we are being intentional about working with the homeless outreach committee here in the community, where we're going to present to their board on the 27th of this month on the training that we're going to have for our team members who are interacting with those individuals, so we can get their feedback on it and make sure that we're being conscious of what resources may be, and preparing our team how to deal with situations if they come into an area where it may be safe or not safe, so that way we can create the best environment for those who are needing the services and the ones that are providing the services. And that's going to be something, once we get their feedback on, that we'll roll out with the plan for that. And then have ongoing training that we'll do quarterly to make sure that we keep our team up to speed on what they should be doing when they're addressing, dealing with those particular situations.
Y'all do a lot.
Question came up. I called you about the Botanica cats issue. I think I'm happy with the answer that Lynette provided and somebody else provided over there, so I'm not worried about that. The other question came about Representative Ford's plans for the summer. Is he making application for permits? Last year, we talked about greater community involvement in that.
So we haven't received any requests as of yet for any use of this park space that's there. I know that I've had conversation with the Councilmember Ballard about, before that actual process started, with having a meeting to kind of set expectations of what we're looking for as we move forward, to be parks as well as PD and her involved in those conversations, so that as they move forward, we'll request that and make sure they're following within the guidelines that we have for usage. So as we get further along, I'll be able to provide an update on that. All right. So we haven't received a request at this point.
Thanks for Reggie. Well, then, move to adjourn the meeting. Have a good evening, everybody. You too. Thank you, Reggie. Thank you, Nate. Nate.
Then Alejo and Reggie, I will go ahead and grab the clap RFP for you and put it on Katie's desk.
Message says it'll be late, but sure. Already got it or not, but
No, I did. I let everyone know. Like, hey, he's coming.
this is something. Thank you.
So, started out with 9 people, ended up with 3 that we actually did it.
The quality folks.
Because we are, I think we're comfortable with that, scoring on the test.
And then for the beach and staff, Mr. Ewer wants someone to go over. I did go over the audio. It should be posted for you guys if you want to go back over it too. I can go through it and go find it again. There is a lot for the in there. But however, I can be like help the process, because it's as the one who wrote it, it's not the funnest. So I can't imagine, you know, going back through it will be much fun either. But also I want to make sure that I'm doing the appropriate job.
Just look at, see if they see something different in there.
Okay, do you want it to be like Jessica, or is there somebody I can send that to?
Let's have a conversation to see.
Okay.
I think we'll probably be.
Because you both are super busy, so I didn't know how that was gonna go about.
request them. Yeah. Like in the past, we've had specific amendments or notes like, hey, this needs to say this versus that. That's it, I think.
And it's totally possible that I did, you know, I did hear multiple things at once. That is totally on me. Once again, I want to be doing the appropriate job, so.
Totally good. It's a lot. It's a big job. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Reggie.
You know, they're gonna give us like Starbucks.
I think so.
Okay.
Gentlemen,
What? No.
Tomorrow, so I should be in the morning to kind of talk to some other things we're gonna chat about, so.
Okay, regarding,
Email.
yeah, also, I'm assuming that talk happened, however, this talk is happening next. He's missed more than 50% in the last fall calendar months.
So, yes, so that's already happened.
Thank you for
And
your
reached
service.
reached out to him and he said he does have the intention of going. And Nate said legally, because we haven't taken an action to remove, we could just continue and monitor if it continues there.
So for that one, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Stock has missed more than 50%. The problem is he didn't actually keep like files. She kept like handwritten notes and things. But of the last, so I started in October, of the last 4 to 6-ish, he's been at 1. So
Which district is he representing?
Eddie Feedstock, I am,
Is he two?
I can't even
We
try
have
it.
to do the same thing, reach out to the Campbells.
So is that the new policy? And do we need to talk to Alejo about amending that in the park board?
We have a little bit of discretion, but we'll check with Nate to see what we have on it because we hadn't actually taken action to remove him. She said that there's not anything that specifies in there that we had to reelect him or anything like that, that we can continue and monitor. And if it happens again, then it's automatic.
Okay.
All right.
Once again, I'm not sure about this one, but I think this one's unfortunately coming pretty soon.
It is something that has been ongoing and that has allowed.
Okay. Okay.
So, not new.
I'll let you go now.
See you in the morning.
See you later. I'm gonna, but I want to. Guess I should stop recording. That might be a little less pathetic.